Welcome back to the Sports News Analysis YouTube channel. My name is Mike. I'm continuing my Week 2 recaps, and this video is for the week that was in the NFC West. Obviously, the marquee matchup in the NFC West was the matchup between the Seattle Seahawks and the San Francisco 49ers. Game that was interrupted by a lightning rainstorm there out in Seattle. But once the action got underway full tilt, the Seahawks did pull away and win 29-3. And, you saw that crowd noise again play a huge role in the game. There's no way around it. I think that stuff is definitely getting to Kaepernick at this point in his career. When you combine that with Frank Gore not running for over 20 yards, you have a recipe for a disaster, quite frankly, for the 49ers. Kaepernick threw 3 interceptions to the trio of Cam Chancellor, Earl Thomas, and Richard Sherman. You saw the Seahawks completely take away Anquan Bolden, and that was the one question I had going into this game is if the Seahawks take away Bolden, which I thought they would, who would Kaepernick be able to go to? And I thought you saw his lack of weapons really come to the forefront, especially when they're not able to get anything going from a running game perspective. I just think from a defensive point of view, from an offensive point of view, at that stadium, it's a tough matchup, certainly for the 49ers. Their defense almost let up 100 yards to Marshawn Lynch. I thought their defense did a pretty good job. Russell Wilson was pretty much kept in check. I don't think that defense is going to be the problem for the 49ers this year. And I don't think the offense is too big of a problem either. I just think that stadium is a beast unto itself. And if the 49ers want to do themselves any favors, they need to put their heads down, start winning some games, and now beat Seattle at San Francisco and try to snatch the NFC West away from Seattle so they're able to get some home games in the playoffs to keep from having to go to Seattle if it should come to that. From a Seattle standpoint, look, that defense at home with that noise, they feast off the emotion. They totally throttled Gore. They shut down Bolden. They did a very good job on Vernon Davis. Look, this is a team that has fun, talks smack a little bit, mostly Richard Sherman with the smack talk, and they back it up, and they really back it up at home. I liked what I saw from the time of possession battle they won as far as establishing Marshawn Lynch. Look, for him to almost go over 100 yards against that 49ers defense is definitely saying something. Russell Wilson stabilized a little bit after starting the game. I think it was 1 for 9 in the passing game. He doesn't have great weapons, but again, with that defense they have, with the running game they have with Lynch, he could still be effective. We know this. Both these quarterbacks are two of the brighter young stars in the league. The Seahawks next week at home to the Jaguars, which you would think would be an easy win. We'll see if there's a letdown. And the 49ers, of course, next week, in what is another big game for them at home to try to get certainly on the right track here, heading into now what is now the time after the Seahawks, time for them to rebound, like I said, and try to snatch that division from them down the road. But you look on the other two teams in this division. First, the St. Louis Rams. Look, the Rams yesterday, they were a little bit outmatched by the Falcons. I know the score was 31-24, but if you watch that game, the Falcons got off to a big lead, 24-3, and sort of cruised and fell asleep a little bit and let St. Louis get back in that game. From a defensive standpoint, they put a lot of pressure on Matt Ryan, but there were some plays where they got to him a second late, and that secondary looked outmatched by Julio Jones in particular. You saw the running game for Atlanta not do much. You did see the Rams still put pressure on Matt Ryan, which I think will be consistent. They sacked him twice. They hurried him a lot more than that. But I just think from like a Julio Jones standpoint or a really talented outside players, I think the Rams are going to have problems with this year. And again, unless that pass rush can get to the quarterback and sack more than they did yesterday. The offense, I think Sam Bradford started throwing the ball around and accumulated those stats once the game was already sort of out of hand. And you don't really know how to judge stats like that. But there's something to be said for playing to the last whistle. He got Tavon Austin involved a little more once the game was out of hand. We'll see if that is something to build on for this offense heading forward. I do question their running game. Isaiah Pead, Darrell Richardson. I don't know if either one of those are the guy that's not only not going to replace Steven Jackson, but just be a steady presence in that running game as a whole. The Rams do have a pretty big game against 1-1 Dallas next week. The Rams would be interested to see how that front plays against that suspect Cowboys offensive line, certainly. And obviously, the last team here in the NFC West is the Arizona Cardinals, coming off a very big win at home in the home opener for Bruce Arians as coach of the Cardinals. They beat the Lions 25-21. And look, the fact of the matter is this: if you give Carson Palmer time to throw, he's going to burn you. He's proved that throughout his career. Has never always been the most clutch quarterback. Puts up a lot of numbers in sort of hollow situations like he did last year with the Raiders. But he will find the open man when he needs to. The Arizona Cardinals certainly took advantage of Detroit shooting themselves in the foot with penalties time and time again. I thought you can look at it one of two ways. I thought the Cardinals defense played a little better once Reggie Bush went out. But obviously the Lions become a much easier team to defend when it's pretty much only Calvin Johnson out there from a weapons perspective. But still, don't take anything away from the Cardinals. They jumped up and they took that game from the Lions and took advantage of some mistakes, and they now moved to 1-1 off of two pretty good games I thought they've played so far. They could easily be 2-0. They let that game slip away at the Rams there in Week 1. But that's my recap for the NFC West here in Week 2. Guys, I'll be previewing every game of the NFC West teams and all the teams here coming up in Week 3. So be sure to subscribe. Let me know what you guys thought of the week here. Week 2, hit me up in the YouTube comments. Again, be sure to subscribe and have a great night.